again for that paving? Okay.
Chuck.
Okay.
It went through finance.
Hey Jeff, there's something we talked about last meeting. I think you walked out and we were talking right after me on council, since we got to appoint to. Can we do it before election, after election, or after New Year's?
Well, the question is which council would appoint the two members? I know we have to wait until after the election for the seats to be vacated,
Right.
but can the appointment be made prior to?
I'll have to look into that. I thought that issue came up one other time.
It did.
It seems like December would be. when we would
Well,
do it.
I think
You
the
still
last
have a
time
full council.
but that's the thing is this council and the next council, I think the last time we did it, it was for Bob and it was the new council,
Okay.
January.
Yeah, we did in January, but I'm pretty sure.
Appointed
Did
them.
you still have
Party.
five? I think you did, yeah. But did you still have 5 people?
Yeah.
See, now we're looking at 4.
It's,
Yeah, but there's
It's-
a revised code provision that says that if you only have 3 council members and 3 vacancies, those 3 can still vote to fill a vacancy.
as long as you get a majority of,
Yeah.
a majority of the seated council.
Correct.
I know that I looked briefly too, and I couldn't find the date of which council does it.
Yeah.
So I punted to you.
I'll have to look, Chuck, at that, so.
All right. We recording, Brian? In that case, as soon as we hit 7:30, we'll start. We got some time on that question though.
Yeah, thank goodness.
All right, I got 7:30, so we'll call this meeting to order. Stand and start with the prayer tonight.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call, please.
Cosgrave? Present. Foreman? Present. Hamilton? Present. Atkinson? Present. Keller?
President,
McCreary?
Present.
All right, everyone's present. First item is approval of the minutes from August 23rd.
I looked over them, everything looked fine to me. I make a motion to approve them as written.
All right,
I'll second that.
any discussion on approval of the minutes? All right, let's move along tonight. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Unanimous voice vote, approved as written. Next is the agenda. There is one amendment to the agenda that is adding ordinance 2021-26, which is an ordinance authorizing the VA and fiscal officer to enter into a contract with Americo Asphalt and Concrete for repaving of certain village roadways in the declaration of emergency. Sponsor is Keller. That is the only amendment I am aware of for the agenda.
okay, I move that we approve the agenda as amended with that ordinance added.
I'd like to make another amendment to the agenda. I would like to make an amendment that we remove 2021-24 and 2021-25 from the agenda for this meeting to give council members a little more opportunity to, discuss it with their neighbors.
If I can make a suggestion, I would bifurcate those 2 motions. The one is the paving contract is not going to be problematic. The other one may be.
Right.
So that's what I would recommend.
All right, so let's do it like this then, instead of the normal one. We've got a motion right now to amend the agenda to add 2021-26. Is there a second on that? And this is just adding the amendments.
I'll second that.
All right, discussion on adding 2021-26. Hearing none, roll call.
Cosgrave,
Yes.
Mormon,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
All right, 2021-26 will be added to the agenda as amended. Any other motions to amend the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the agenda and remove 2021-24 and 2021-25 from tonight's agenda. To allow, I believe they were just finalized on Thursday, added to the agenda on Friday, and today they're up for first reading. I was just thinking we could give it a couple more weeks for council members to discuss it with their neighbors.
Is there a second on that motion?
I guess I'll second that just so we can go into discussion on it.
All right, Mr. Hankinson seconds. So discussion on removing 2021, 24, and 25 from the agenda. Discussion.
I guess we'll go through 3 readings and that's be a month and a half.
And there'll be a public hearing. There's a public hearing requirement.
And then like
So how
3
much time are
exiting
you-
council members will be, I guess I'm just saying, either put it on next meeting's agenda so that you guys have more time to understand what's being proposed here. Because I believe you guys saw it for the first time on Friday, didn't you? The finalized versions.
Well, I didn't come pick up my paperwork, so I didn't see it, but
They're pretty strong ordinances. I just think we should, I don't know that there needs to be any kind of a hurry here on either of them.
If I may, the lot coverage one, it's actually increased from the initial numbers that were in there previously. So
I
again,
saw that.
so the numbers are different.
I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it does have 3 readings and a public hearing requirement for both of those.
And would end up being like the final ordinance passed by 3 retiring members. So just a thought.
so you want to go into next year, is that what?
I think it'd be more appropriate, as important as those 2 ordinances are. I think they're pretty impactful ordinances. I mean, have you really thought both of those through completely?
No.
Well, I don't want to get into discussion of the ordinances. This is just, are they going to be on for a first reading tonight or not?
Yeah, and I'm just saying, let's postpone it at least 2 weeks. I would rather see it move into next year's council, but I'll go along with, I have 1 vote, so.
I guess you could always table it if it's.
Council
if you
could,
think that is not working out, you know.
If that's the option, is to table it so that the first reading wouldn't occur until next meeting, or.
It can be
Well,
tabled
no, I
at any
mean,
time.
If you
Right,
need
that's
to
what
extend
the
it
reading is.
out for.
if council wanted to extend it out.
debate.
What I will say is planning and zoning, especially with, I think it's 25. Planning and zoning has worked on that for over a year. Now, some of that was some delayed meetings because of COVID, but they have been working on that since 2019.
Well, even when we skip it 2 weeks, first reading will be the 27th of September, and then we have 2 more readings in October.
Mhm.
So it still will be the old council members, all of us voting on it.
Exactly.
But provide extra time for you to look over it. Is that what you're?
That's all I'm saying. I don't believe these 3 or 4 have even seen the final drafts of these until Friday at the earliest.
Which is
I
why
know
we
I
had-
didn't see the final draft until Friday.
right, because we finalized them Thursday night.
Right. It
And
just
got 'em
seems
on.
like it really got
So-
fast tracked there.
Well, because the way
It's just it fell. It's just
the way it fell.
I understand.
But that's also, I mean, it's not, none of them are emergencies or have
Exactly.
or bypass rules. They're all going to go 3 readings.
So either we do a first reading and table it after, or we table it for discussion and then do the first reading next.
Well, you wouldn't discuss it tonight if you tabled it, if you removed it,
You could table it anytime. You could table it to 3rd reading.
which we've
3rd reading
done.
would be October 25th. If it went for the normal course of 3 readings, and there's a quorum at each council meeting. So that's the council's decision there, so.
Right.
Any further discussion or questions on this one before I ask for a roll?
Well, what would the role be exactly here? Are we voting to table it, voting to
You're-
take it off the agenda, or voting to just?
You'd be voting to take it off.
You'd be voting
That's
to
what the
remove it
motion
from
was,
the
to remove
agenda.
it from the agenda.
Yep.
Take it off, okay. And a yes vote would be to take it off.
A yes vote would be to take it off of the agenda.
Okay.
good clarification because sometimes those get confusing.
It's just turned into a double negative.
And that's,
So-
that's all or nothing? That's for both of them?
That would be for both of them because that was the motion. Yep. All right. Any other questions? Hearing none. Roll call.
Cosgray,
No.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Hankinson,
No.
Keller,
No,
McCreary.
No.
All right. Motion to remove 2021 and 2021, 24, and 25 from the agenda fails by a vote of 4-2. They will remain on the agenda. Any other motions to amend the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Cosgray makes a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
All right.
And I'd like to second that.
All right. Any further discussion on the amended agenda? Hearing none, roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Keller,
yes,
Hankinson,
Yes.
Foreman,
No.
Hamilton.
No.
All right, 4-2, amended agenda is approved. We will move on to visitors. Debbie, on there, you got anything for council? I'll go with. okay, we'll
Sorry,
catch-
no, I keep hitting, I keep missing my mute button, but no, I'm good. Thanks.
All right. In that case, we will move on to village admin reports. My report, we got a lot of ordinances on tonight, so I'm going to keep it short. Suffice it to say that in the office, it's a little short last week and this week with some COVID protocols and people out, but Terry and the team are working well and making sure the office is staying open and covered despite some difficulties with people not being able to be here at times. And Brian working late to come in to accommodate everything. So we appreciate everybody's work and cooperation with that. The two things I wanted to mention, I was going to mention them during the planning and zoning, but since we kind of discussed them as part of the agenda, ordinance 2021-24 is on tonight. That's maximum lot coverage. This was somehow missed when we did our zoning update in 2017. We just didn't include them back into it. A lot of municipalities have them. There was a public hearing on this July 8th. There were some people that wanted more coverage or no coverage or the ability to have more coverage on your lot. Planning and zoning looked at it. They did up some of the numbers a little bit on it, but then did unanimously approve setting the lot coverage maximums at what we have them in that ordinance. They also have the caveat of they're going to continue to monitor that situation and look at do they need to be increased, because there are some lots that we recognize right now that will be, as soon as, if this passes, will be non-conforming because of the amount of coverage that already exists. So they're going to continue to look at it, but we got to start somewhere and get it established. And then again, was noted that if it comes up that someone wants a higher percentage, they have that variance option. And like the committee has done recently, if they then change it after that variance is granted, refund that person's variance application for that. So that one is there. I'm sure Brandy will have a little more when we get to it. The other one I mentioned is the short-term rental registration. I mentioned, the committee took over a year to come up with that. A lot of discussion on it, a lot of research on it. It's not that we have a problem with any of them now, but we don't know what's coming. In July, there was a dispatch article at the end of July about the Rialpha Group, which is out of Dublin, and their plan to buy $1.5 billion in homes with the goal of becoming the nation's largest owner of short-term rentals. And their plan is to then reinvent it by allowing individual investors to own shares of specific properties that get rented through Airbnb. So yeah, we don't have problems with any now, but we don't know what's coming. So they took a very long approach to that. And we have the ordinance up for first reading tonight. That one, after all of the discussion, and there were some changes from what showed up at the public hearing, but the Planning and Zoning Commission did also unanimously approve that ordinance to recommendation to council. So with that, I will turn it over to Terry so that she can give us updates on office with COVID and some street stuff going on.
So tonight I just wanted to point out tonight that we have the ordinance for the repaving of Maple and Johnson. These are two of the streets that we had on our list to pave for 2021. That paving project has been bidded twice, and we did not get acceptable bids both times. So what we have did is we went out to see if we could find a contractor to at least pave the streets where we had laid the water lines. That would be Maple and Johnson. So thus you have before you an ordinance to allow us to go ahead and do that. I could probably have them there as soon as tomorrow morning to start the milling. So I just wanted to point that out. Then also, I'm going to go quickly. Pool has been drained. We rented a compressor and drained the pool today. We're thinking about doing some sort of a protective coating to the bottom of the pool for the winter. We still not sure what we're going to do there, but we did really good as far as leakage. I think the total leakage was like 6 inches. We still have a couple of areas that Tim believes that are around the drain, so we'll be looking at those. Along with the pool, out there on the swimming pool Facebook page and also on our website is a Survey Monkey. We had met Parks and Rec met last month, and we have a person that would like to get involved in doing some improvements at the pool. So we came up with the idea of sending out a survey to see what people really wanted. I added one question on that this year. I mean, for the survey, and the question was, how was your visit to the pool this year? As you know, in the past, it has not been good. And almost 70% of the people that took the survey said that their pool experience was good. 24% said it was average. So I think that goes to show you that the money that council so generously let me spend to redo the bottom of the pool has paid off, and we had a really good season at the pool. So thank you. If you're interested in taking the survey, I got a couple more days on the survey. Please go out and take the survey. Water, we're going to bid out the OPWC water line project. Remember, that's a loop project that we were awarded through the small government. That's for the Fremont, Kumler, Brown area. That will go out to bid on September 23rd. While you can do water line projects longer than you can do street projects, I am not sure that we're going to be able to get that bidded out either. So we'll see what happens. Wastewater, most of our focus has been on I&I. I have a couple weeks left that I have to respond to the EPA for our I&I timeline. We met again today to identify where we can put some flow meters. Our first step is to establish a baseline, some baseline data of a dry season of flow out of, I believe it's 5 or 6 different locations throughout the village. So we worked a long time on that. We'll be presenting that to the EPA in a couple weeks. And at the service meeting, I will be presenting the plan to you. Along with the plan, we have already started working on next year's budget. At the next meeting, I will have a temporary look at projects that the team is suggesting that we can do for your review. And then we will go forward. We've had to move some of our 2021 projects over into 2022 based on the not being able to get the materials or having companies to have enough manning to come in and do the job. So there's been a number of reasons why, and I'll explain that at our next service meeting. Zoning, we are almost finished. I would say by the end of the year, the zoning software will be in place. I've had conversations with Pleasantville, because as you know, we do their zoning also. They are willing to pay some money towards the zoning software since they are a user. So I'm looking at now how much of that 7,000 would we like to have Pleasantville pay. That's not something that we have to talk about right now, but maybe at the next service meeting, we could come up with a number. I can shoot you some numbers of what I think. Shoot you like email. Our website, there was a holdup on that because I didn't want to go live until we had our online payment. Our online payments, when the website goes live, the residents will be able to make online payments instead of coming in person or over the phone. So that will be a big plus. We have a meeting on Wednesday or Thursday this week to go over that with the software company to make sure we're ready to go. So that should be happening pretty quick. I don't have an exact target date. The last thing that's exciting that's been happening is that this week I will be meeting with ADR. They are the engineering company that Robert has chosen to work on his addition in the Tremont Circle Drive area. I don't have a lot of details on that. We're just beginning our talks. So again, I believe my meeting is Wednesday or Thursday this week to start talking about that. So at the next service meeting, we'll have a busy agenda. So between the projects and updating you on everything that's going on. I think I've covered everything, unless you have some questions.
Anybody got anything for Terry? Service will be busy, so if everyone can make it.
Service will be very busy. Bring a packed lunch, maybe.
All right. No questions for Terry? Move on to Brian.
I really don't have anything unless you have some questions.
All right, hearing none. Move on to Jeff.
Lots of legislation on the agenda. Two new pieces of legislation, neither carries emergency language. Second reading of resolution 2021-22, actually three new pieces of legislation, stand corrected. The newly added one does carry emergency language because it's necessary for that particular contractor to work that project into the contractor's schedule. So that one does carry emergency language. The resolution that's on for second reading 2021-22 does have emergency language, but according to Brian, that doesn't need to be considered for passage this evening. That can go to a third and final reading. And then the two ordinances that are on for a third reading do not carry emergency language. Those have been discussed. They've been through committee. Chief Tussey has asked that ordinance 2021-15, which is currently tabled, be removed from the table this evening and considered for passage by village council. He has clarified the requested changes by the village of Thurston. That's the ordinance for the police protection services between the village of Baltimore and the village of Thurston. Minor amendments to the agreement. The contract amount stays the same. The term is still 1 year, but it's renewable. And it's mostly, it was just to include any local ordinances that the village of Thurston would want to be enforced, such as junk vehicles, tires, that sort of thing. They would ask that our police department follow their ordinances for those kind of local issues. And according to Chief Tussey, we do that already for the village of Pleasantville. So that's pretty much a non-issue. That does include emergency language. The other change is that the original effective date was July 1st. That's come and gone, obviously. The new effective date is September 15th. Both Chief Tussey and the mayor of the village of Thurston are anxious to get that contract up and running. And that's all I have.
And Jeff, we did talk briefly, at least brought up the contract changes in finance tonight.
Okay, good.
So that's been at least reviewed. And Terry, it might be something for us. Well, I'll get it when we get to 2015. So, all right, anything else for Jeff? All right, then we will move on to committee reports, finance.
Okay, Mayor, we met tonight, kind of short meeting. We did go over the monthly, and Brian explained to us everything is within the, the appropriation. So we're holding our own. We did talk about resolution 2021-22, so it was talked about in committee. And our next meeting is October 11th at 6 o'clock.
All right. Any questions for finance? All right, service.
Service has not met since the last month's meeting, and so the next meeting is going to be on the 27th of this month, 6 o'clock. Guess there's going to be a lot on the agenda.
Yep. All right. Safety.
Our next meeting is September 27th after service.
All right. And rules.
We had a meeting tonight, Mayor. Everybody was present, so everybody knows what was going on in that. So our next meeting will be October the 11th at 6:45 or immediately following the finance committee.
All right. Public safety reports. Chief. Or DC, you're muted.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. I don't have anything really that the chief gave me to report on. I guess I'd entertain any questions or concerns that any of you might have.
Anybody got anything for the?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
My grandson had died, and the police department stepped up, and Brett Rogers did the escort to the cemetery for me, and plus he controlled traffic for us to come in and out of the cemetery. And I'd like to thank the village for the flowers.
Well,
That's it.
I don't know that there's words that can express our condolences, but we're glad Brett was at least able to make a difficult time a little easier traffic wise and get you there. Anything else for the chief or deputy chief? I will say that I know that we've got a couple officers out there. They're coming out of FTO, and we've got some increased patrols out there, and they are doing speed enforcement stops. So hopefully people are recognizing that as well. So
Has the speed monitor out there by your house, has it helped?
Terry, Deputy
Yeah.
Chief, you guys have anything on the speed monitor? Have you guys looked at the numbers to see if there's been a decrease in, there wasn't a lot of speeders going by it. The last numbers we looked at, most people were within a couple miles an hour anyway. But have you guys noticed a decrease in those, we'll call it excessive speeders?
Now, the last time that I talked to, I believe Dylan was running this project, and I'm not sure, DC, correct me if I'm wrong. We didn't have any that were excessive. Now, I haven't looked at it this last week because I've been so busy, but we'll make sure that we have that report for you at maybe safety in 2 weeks. How's that? And that'll give you a little more on what's going on. We ordered a traveling mount for that so that the chief could take it to different locations or trouble spots. And they're just having a hard time getting it in, they being clean where we ordered it from. They're just having a hard time getting the part shipped. So soon we'll move it from that spot. But DC, do you know any more than that?
No, I know when I come through there in my own POV, I notice the traffic does pay attention to that sign. I haven't seen anybody when I'm off duty or in my own vehicle that's exceeding the speed limit. They pay attention to that marker up there.
Yeah. We'll get some numbers and see at safety. Cool. Thank you, guys. Anything else for the police department? If not, we'll go over to fire district.
Our next meeting is this Thursday. It's 6:30 at station 610.
All right. Any questions? We haven't had a meeting for a while, so we'll move on. Planning and zoning, I mentioned the ordinances that are on tonight, so no need to cover that again. Next up, planning and zoning, they're looking at pools, in particular, the height of the pools. There was a couple inflatable pools that didn't quite meet height, and there's a discrepancy between zoning code and code enforcement for pools. So as well as I think we need to get on there and look at some of the pool setback requirements for some of the areas. That's on there. Fences with regards to setback. In fact, we passed that, did we not? Did we not make that recommendation?
Yeah.
So we'll be having legislation come forth, removing the 1 foot setback off the property line. Right now, a fence has to be a foot back, and we keep getting variances on it, so you can put it right up to the property line. So planning and zoning is recommending council amend the zoning code to allow property fences go up to the property line. So we'll get with Jeff now that he's back from vacation to get that. Oh, and there was one other thing on there we were looking at. Brandy, do you remember what it was? Terry, what was the other thing that's on your list?
I have several things on my list, but those were the big hitters: the fences, the swimming pools, the driveways. Those
Driveways.
big hitters.
We
And the
did.
exemption of, and you may want to note that. I mean, I know discussion period is over with.
I'll hit it. Yeah, I'll hit it right now so that I don't
Okay.
forget when we get to ordinance 2021-24. They did talk about with the lot coverage, because we require sidewalks to be built on new builds as well as driveway aprons. Should that count as someone's coverage? Because we require it. So in that ordinance is the exemption. So a sidewalk and your driveway apron do not count towards your drive or towards your lot coverage. That way, I mean, the committee basically said if we're requiring it, we should exempt it from there. So your driveway from your sidewalk up counts, but not the driveway open and not the sidewalk that is required if you build a new home or something. They did exempt that out.
Correct.
So, and then our next meeting, we moved it in October because it would be set for Fair Week. So we set it to the 3rd Thursday, which the date escapes me at the moment, but it's the 3rd Thursday, and we'll get all that notice published out for it. So questions for P and Z? If not, we'll go on to Tree Commission.
I didn't make the last meeting, but they are working on their fall planting schedule. So as soon as that's finalized, you'll see them out there planting.
All right.
And that's all I have on trees.
And Records Commission, Brian? We don't have anything yet?
No, I've been away for a couple of weeks.
Okay. So Records is, well, we had a meeting earlier this year, so we're good.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Motions, resolutions, ordinances. Any motions at this time? Hearing none, I will move on to first reading, ordinance 2021-24, which is an ordinance to amend certain portions of Part 12 Planning and Zoning Code of the Baltimore Codified Ordinances to provide for maximum lot coverages. Sponsor is McCreary.
Yes, ma'am. So we had a rather lengthy meeting last Thursday. Part of our conversation was regarding this particular ordinance, and some of the items that we discussed regarding 2021-24. We're hesitant to make any significant changes at this point, as we're considering the infrastructure in terms of the water infrastructure, because we're not sure what our plants can handle. So we ultimately decided to kind of go back to the numbers that were previously listed within the previous ordinance. So R1s at 30%, R2 at 35%, and R3s up to 40%, and that's an increase. Also, we took into consideration the driveways in terms of the aprons and the sidewalks, which are required by the village, and discussed those in terms of what was the term, that we're not going, those will not be included within the percentage of the property. So
I forgot about that, with the discussion about the water runoff.
correct. And that was ultimately why we decided to go back to the numbers. And then as things, or if things change, then consider changing those percentages. Another point that was brought up also, pavers, talking about semi-pervious or impervious surfaces. So again, that's probably going to be discussed as we proceed.
Are there any questions on 2021-24 at this time?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
How is the lot coverage determined? Is it determined based on the minimum livable square footage? Or is it determined based on the blueprint of the proposed structure that is going to sit on that lot?
Terry, since you are the one that determines that, you are the best one to answer.
Yeah, I hope that this isn't a correct and wrong answer. When I look at a percent coverage, I look at the way it sits on the lot, Jeff. I'm assuming that was Jeff's question.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Yes. So in other words, if someone's got a house, I look at the base, the way it sits on the lot. If they have a swimming pool, what area that incorporates, and if they have a shed, what area that incorporates. And that's how I figure what the percentage of coverage is, because each one of those things would be impervious.
And I think, Terry, for clarification, you use the auditor's website for diagrams for existing structure, and then for the new structure, you would use their submitted plan.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, are patios on the auditor's website?
Some of them are.
I was gonna say, I don't believe they are in most cases.
A patio attached, well, and this is where Terry, when they submit the plan, has to go out and do the site inspection.
That's
So
correct.
like a patio attached to a house will be on the auditor's site. It'll show up as a patio. I'm thinking there's one right across from the high school that's now enclosed, but it started out as a patio, and it is listed. A patio that is a cement patio in a backyard is not going to be included on the auditor's site. And that's where Terry goes out and does the site inspection to determine that. The other thing that I learned when talking to Terry about this is, for instance, a wooden deck. If the deck boards are put so together that no water gets through, it counts as an impervious surface. If you got your 1/8 of an inch between your deck boards, it's now a pervious surface because the water can drip through. So that's where the site inspection stuff comes in.
So we decided that pools were impervious. What did we determine on ponds?
Ponds were the other thing on the list that's getting discussed.
Yes.
Okay. That wasn't hashed out in planning and zoning.
No, because the problem with ponds is we've got, well, ponds, and then you've got giant ponds that can take up to an acre. And you've got the little koi ponds that can go in your front yard that you pick up at the hardware store that you just dig out a couple of feet, and how they go. And I think part of the problems with ponds is some of them get classified as wetlands.
Yes.
There's one in the village that we can't do anything with because it's classified as a wetland. And then stormwater. So ponds are going to require us, I think, to get ODNR or EPA advice on.
And then on pools, I've never had to pump water out of my pool because it got too much water in it, but I've had to add so much water that Missy called me to make sure I didn't have a leak.
Welcome
Because
to.
I've used so much water topping off my pool.
I lost my argument. I did not want to include pools and impervious surfaces because it collects the water. It's not like it adds to the runoff. I lost that argument. But that was my argument as well, is your pool collects water.
So much water to my pool, Missy called alarmed that I had a leak.
Yes. So I lost that argument. I don't think pools should be included. But I lost that argument for now.
We say, someone made the comment, and may have been me, it almost cancels it out, a pool.
Well, it kind of does.
Unless there's an overflow issue.
Right. If there's an overflow issue, but that rarely happens because you keep so much space between your water level and the top of your pool.
But it's because of the surface, the soil.
It's because where it's covered, it technically prevents water from going into the ground and industry standard is to include them in impervious surfaces. I agree with Rick. I think that's wrong because it doesn't add to the runoff issue
But
until I go to empty it.
a gravel driveway is also impervious,
Correct.
but we have to put in gravel trenches to get the ground to accept leach bed water.
Right.
So some gravel makes the ground take water and some gravel makes the ground not take water.
Yes,
So I can't quite figure that one out.
I'm with you on that one too. And Brandy, I think, was with me on that one too, that gravel driveways should not be
We are the
impervious.
people who decide, so it isn't like we could get argued out of our position because
Correct.
we're the only ones who decide.
Again,
Yes.
it's all for
Yes.
conversation.
Yes, so that is something as we're discussing 2021-24, that is something that if council wanted to do, you guys have the power to change that to exempt pools or gravel driveways or to make those modifications.
And we still have to decide on ponds.
And we still have to decide on ponds though. And if you guys, what you guys wanted to do on ponds, if you wanted to do something, you could. It is on the list for planning and zoning to discuss just because it is so in depth of an issue. But
And
if you
I
guys
think it's
want-
going to be a long conversation.
Yeah, but if you guys wanted to do something on ponds as well, that is completely within your legislative authority. This ordinance.
Well, in light of those comments, I mean, I think it's going to be necessary to put together some sort of standards then along the lines of, okay, here's how we calculate your whatever we're calling it here. So
Lot coverage.
yeah, our lot, here's how we're determining lot coverage and to include all of this information in there.
Terry, I think, has more or less a checklist
Okay,
that you could, and you could provide that for us for the next council meeting
Yes.
on this.
okay.
So that we have that. And then, of course, that's only a second reading, so council, as we discussed earlier, has a whole slew of options,
Yeah.
but we can get that so you guys can see how the lot coverage is in fact calculated and
Yep.
what's included and not included.
Yeah, that was my question, something about the driveway, what Rick brought up, because I got two neighbors. One of them got a whole bunch, a big driveway, it's all gravel. And it's a loose gravel. Then I got another neighbor, don't even have gravel at all, it's just a dirt driveway.
Mhm.
And my own self, I got an alley that I use, and I pay taxes on half of it, and it's gravel. So are you counting, if a guy, somebody opens an alley up and they use it to go into a garage, then you're counting that as their property too, right? As of now?
No, I think we discussed that part because it would be as if do we have a right of way for it, or is it just an open, you just made like a
I
private
open
alley?
it,
Because we talked like my property line goes to the center of 256
right.
and I didn't want Market Street included in my lot coverage. And so the road is exempted from there.
Anybody else think this isn't ready for prime time?
But the alley, Terry, what on that alley?
And the alley that Chuck's talking about behind his house.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Would
I
that
have to look at the property line. Is it a closed alley? Or did you,
No, it's not closed because the electric guy's gotta come back there and cable, but it's gravel.
but your property line goes up to the alley? It doesn't include the alley?
It probably goes up to the alley.
Yes, that's
Someone
the
has to
answer right
pass
there.
on that alley. I always thought you paid half regardless where your line is, no?
No,
No,
if it's a right away.
If they vacate it, you get half the alley, and now if you gravel it,
Yeah.
you need to pay, but if it's grass, you don't.
Okay,
So the only two things at this time that don't count are grass and planting beds. Is that correct? As impervious.
Well, decks that allow water
Decks
through,
allow water.
and that was the question with the
pavers are
pavers.
underside.
Well,
Pavers,
well, some
spacing,
pavers are,
again, it goes
Some
back
pavers
to,
are designed to let the water go through.
Correct. And so the pavers that are like the deck that allows water to go through don't count if it's a brick one that's all sealed in, then it's impervious. Yeah. Any other questions? If not, we've got an action item for the next reading on this. And again, if you guys want to make any changes, it's completely within your authority to do so at any time.
or if you have any clarification you need, just shoot me an email. And I'll get you the study or whatever. Whatever you
Yeah.
need.
So this will be on for a second reading on September 27th. And we will move on to ordinance 2021-25, which is an ordinance to amend certain portions of Part 12, Planning and Zoning Code of the Baltimore Codified Ordinances to provide for the registration of short-term rental properties. Sponsor McCreary.
Yes, Mayor. So this was a conversation we also had last Thursday. This is a topic that has been on the list, it sounds like, for quite a while. There's been a lot of conversation regarding the short-term rentals. So after our conversation, ultimately, I believe there were three things that we decided. The one thing that was decided was that there would be some type of fire plan that just will be submitted. We also said that they will just have to, I guess the word is going to get a permit from the village, just so that we know that they're a business here in the village. And the third thing being is that unless they have some type of background check through, say, Airbnb or whatever company that they use as their, I guess their contracting company, what have you, we're going to request that upon applying for the permit that they submit a background check, and that will be, we haven't decided, but it was discussed, something maybe like every 5 years or something, that ultimately that background check, just to make sure that information is there. But I'm gonna include, there is a note with that. So this is not for a yay or nay as to whether a business is going to open. It's just to have it on file.
It becomes part of the record at that point. So if someone wants to look at it, they can. But it is not if someone has an assault conviction or something, it is not a disqualifying event.
Mm-mm.
If I could add a couple of other things that were added is any short-term rental in operation, it gets time to come into compliance. It's not an immediate type thing. And one other important thing is the ordinance, as you read through it, specifies out owner occupied short-term rental versus a commercial short-term rental. And it specifies out that even though we might call one a commercial short-term rental, that is not the intent to change the use of the property from residential to commercial. We're just using that term to distinguish between the two types of operations of an owner occupied versus a whole structure.
And Mayor, if I may add
Yeah.
something, also, we defined a short-term rental stating that they may have no longer than a 30-day stay. So technically, they could have 5 or 6 30-day stays, however, 30-day maximum.
Right.
So,
And this replaces the old bed and breakfast section. It amends that. So, questions on that? All right. Again, this one will then be on for a second reading on 9/27. Both of these ordinances, since they are planning and zoning code changes, require public hearings. I will talk with Brandy and Steve about probably setting up a public hearing in the Opera House again to allow for enough space for people to attend, and getting that set at some point here in the near future. Probably, I don't know that we'll get it set before the next meeting, but at the next meeting, we will definitely have the date set for it. So, any other questions or comments on that one at this time? All right, hearing none, we will then move on to ordinance 2021-26, which is an ordinance authorizing the village administrator and fiscal officer to enter into a contract with Americo Asphalt and Concrete for repaving of certain village roadways and declaration of an emergency. Sponsor is Keller.
Okay, Mayor, this was discussed in finance tonight. And we've been talking about getting some roads paved this year, and of course, it's been hard. And this is 2 of the streets we want to get done. So at this time, I like to bypass the three reading rule.
Second.
All right, motion and second to bypass 3 readings, primary motion, roll call.
Cosgray. Yes.
Foreman? Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Hankinson.
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
All right, 3 readings bypassed.
Okay, Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 21-21-26.
I'll second.
All right, discussion on a motion to adopt 2021-26. Hearing none, roll call.
Let's see, Keller.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Cosgray. Yes. Hankinson.
Yes.
Foreman.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
All right, 2021-26 will be adopted. And per Terry, they'll start milling later this week.
Maybe
So,
tomorrow.
maybe tomorrow. All right, moving on. Second readings, resolution 2021-22, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Fairfield County Budget Commission, authorizing necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor and the declaration of emergency. Sponsor is Keller.
Okay, Mayor, this is the second reading. There's not much we can do about it, so we'll go to third reading.
All right,
I mean, it's just something we do every year.
third reading, next meeting, 9/27. Moving on to third readings, ordinance 2021-18, which is an ordinance amending section 660 of the General Offenses Code, Safety, Sanitation, and Health to include a new section, 660.035, placing injurious materials on highway or depositing litter from a motor vehicle. Sponsor is Hamilton.
Yes, sir. This is the one, excuse me, we discussed about the people that like to blow their grass and everything out into the roadways and that. They may not think it's injurious, that, but if you ride a motorcycle, it's very injurious. So we can go to the third reading.
This is the third reading.
This is the third reading.
Does
Okay.
this include plastic bags full of paper ads?
Yeah.
Actually, I
I
think
mean-
it does.
It would be,
It's litter.
Yeah, I believe it does.
that would
So,
be, that would be litter and it would be injurious materials.
Yeah. I think we'll have plenty of opportunity to enforce it.
Rick, it includes ashes, stone, brick, tacks, bottles, wire, glass, nails, grass, weeds, leaves, dirt, mud, or other articles which may damage or injure any person, vehicle, or animal traveling along or upon the highway.
So if your horse slips on it, we got you covered. And I say that because someone rode their horse down Oak Street the other day.
They were also in the drive-through at shop.
Yes.
I used to ride my horse into town.
They left the evidence of the horse in the middle of Oak Street.
All the current shoppers.
All right, so this is your third reading, Mike.
Motion to adopt it.
All right,
Second.
who got that first?
Rick.
All
Oh,
right,
I didn't
Foreman.
do it. He did.
I-
He asked for a second. You seconded. I didn't.
Oh, okay, oh, okay.
I heard a second.
All right.
I'll take it if you want me to. but-
Motion Hamilton, second Keller. Discussion on adoption. Hearing none, roll call.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
Hankinson.
Yes.
Foreman.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Cosgray. Yes.
All right. 6-0, 2021-18 will be adopted. It does not carry emergency language, so it will come into effect 30 days.
Correct.
All right. Moving on, ordinance 2021-19, an ordinance amending section 10.4 holidays of the Employee Manual of Personnel Policies and Regulations. Sponsor is Cosgray.
Yeah, this is the one where they added Juneteenth, I think, to the list of the holidays for employee manual. So third reading, I would request adoption.
That sounded like a motion to adopt.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion on 2021-19.
Okay, I like to, well, it is section 10.4, so, and it has a list of all the holidays. We have quite a few holidays on there. I like to see that become a floating holiday. I still like to be noted on our ordinance that it is a holiday, But a floating holiday, we pay a lot of hour in overtime because all the employees are off and we still have parts of the voice that still has to be maintained. And you end up paying a lot of overtime or could be double time. I'd just like to see it become a floating holiday. That way they could take a holiday and as they like. That's my motion to amend.
So your motion to amend is to recognize Juneteenth as a holiday, but provide it to village employees as a floating holiday to be used throughout the year.
I'll second that.
All right.
I
Wait.
would just like to put on the.
All right, so we got a motion and a second to amend. Discussion on this motion, and this is discussion on the motion to amend and change, okay? Go ahead, discussion.
Yes, so I just wanted to say, I would like to see it remain on that particular date. So I think that sometimes if we make those floating holidays, it takes away from the significance of the holiday.
What
It's
other,
a tough one,
yeah,
but I'm just saying that, in my opinion, that's what I think.
I don't,
Do we have any
So-
other floating holidays?
Yeah, I think a personal holiday was another holiday that we made a floating holiday.
Well, one personal day,
Well,
which it is considered a holiday on the employee menu.
but it seems to me, I think it was before you, that we had made
I think
one
it
of
was Columbus
the
Day.
holidays, could have been, well, one of the holidays had become a floating holiday, and they must have just made it a personal holiday.
okay.
And
What-
I mean, it was a long time ago, and I can't remember which holiday it was. That's why I wanted to leave that holiday on our list, but just made notation that it was a floating holiday.
I just, they had a survey, I get emails from, Municipal Clerks Association. They had a village, had a survey from all the communities, on what everyone else is doing for this Juneteenth holiday. The majority of them are doing the floating holiday thing where let their employees, there were some, I surprised they left, that aren't even considering it to be a holiday. They're just leaving it status quo. But the majority of the responses, I wasn't one of them, they sent the results out, said the majority of the villages and maybe cities, because like you said, that's a busy time of the year, the service are allowing their employees to take that holiday as a floating holiday, whenever they want to take it. I just throw that out there. I'm not saying
Yeah.
Have
But
we
the
asked,
one that I think it become their personal day as a holiday. It was a holiday, but it had gotten lost because we didn't make a notation of it. That's why I wanted to leave it
Make
on
sure it's
there
the calendar.
as a holiday, but it just becomes a floating holiday.
hey, Terry, have you asked the guys and Peg what they would like to do with this? Because it is a busy time. That's the
Right.
start of the summer and we get Memorial Day and then 4th of July shortly there. But it does if you make it a floating holiday, take away from the significance of the holiday. Have you talked to the crew about if they have a preference on
Correct.
this?
Correct. At staff meeting, we discussed it, and even outside of staff, and the majority, almost the vast majority, said they would prefer to have it as a floating holiday for some of the reasons that you've named. The busy time, etc. So they would like to see it as a floating.
The county commissioners approved recently their schedule and the holiday schedule for county employees, and they're observing Juneteenth as the holiday. They're not making it a floating holiday, but they do include in their list of holidays the Fairfield County Fair Days. So and they recognize half days for Christmas Eve at noon and the day after Thanksgiving as a holiday. So, but Columbus Day, President's Day's on there, Columbus Day is not, so.
Yeah, they replaced Columbus Day with the day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
I knew they changed something.
I personally am with Brandy. I would like to see it stay Juneteenth, but I also have a hard time when staff prefers it being a floating holiday, you know, because they are the ones doing the work. But I don't have to make that decision unless you guys vote evenly to tie, so. Yep.
Well, we have a motion.
We have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. Is there any more discussion on amending it to be a floating holiday? All right, hearing none, we will have a vote. And again, this is a vote on the motion to amend it to make Juneteenth a recognized holiday, but provide it to staff as a floating holiday to be used within the year. And so a yes vote would be in favor of that motion and amendment. Roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Hankinson,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
McCurry.
Yes.
All right. All right.
I'll have to
With the staff,
amend that and bring it back.
but it's on the calendar.
All right. So the ordinance has been amended. This is the third reading. Is there a motion to adopt as amended?
I will make a motion to adopt the ordinance as amended to a floating holiday.
All right, motion to adopt 2021-19 as just amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Hankinson,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
McCurry.
Yes.
All right, 2021-19 will, as amended, will be adopted. It doesn't carry emergency language, but we've already passed June this year, so it'll be adopted in 30 days. Moving on to tabled ordinances. Tabled ordinance 2021-15, which is an ordinance authorizing the village administrator to execute an agreement between the village of Baltimore and the village of Thurston for the provision of police protection services and the declaration of an emergency. Sponsor is Hamilton.
Yes, sir. We tabled this 3 meetings ago.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Anyway, we've got a new, I guess you'd say contract worked out with them.
Yes.
The effective date on the contract's September 15th. I'd like to untable it.
Sounded motion and second to untable the ordinance. I don't recall if that one gets discussion or not. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call. I don't.
Make a motion to adopt them.
Wait a minute, we got roll call on your untabling.
All right, sorry.
Okay, Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Hankinson,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
McCurry.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 2021-15 is back before the council.
Mike's sprinting to the finish.
All right, Mike, take it away.
I'd like to have a motion to adopt, make a motion to adopt 10.
All right.
Second one.
Don't we have to declare an emergency or?
No, it's on for, it has emergency language already.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's been through, this is
So this is a motion to adopt.
the motion to adopt, yep.
Okay, I thought I had declared.
Yeah, this is the third.
Mhm.
All right. Discussion?
Who
Roll call.
seconded? I missed it.
Brandy?
Brandy.
Brandy, thank you.
Roll call.
Let's see, Cosgray.
Yes.
Hankinson.
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
McCurry.
Yes.
Foreman.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
All right, 2021-15 will be adopted. All right, I think that's the most legislation we've had in a while. All right, moving on. Does anybody have any old business? All right, does anybody have any new business?
Yes, I have 2 items.
All
My
right.
first item is I would like to let you know that Mr. George Dabt has sent me an email complimenting our staff on the way that they're taking care of the cemeteries and the parks. I thought it was really nice that he took his time to write a very nice letter, which I have passed along to staff, particularly calling out the blonde lady with the long blonde hair who takes good care in what she does, or pride in what she does, which would have been Peg. So I thought that was really nice. And Mr. Daft, I love those kind of letters we get because I think our staff does a great job. The second thing I want to bring up isn't so quick. So Brad, could you pull up on the auditor's card, the auditor's website, or even that card that I sent you, a picture of the property?
Oh yeah, let me go to your email while you're filling them
Right.
in. Okay.
So we have a property that is just north of the railroad tracks that sits behind Bob's Oil Can. There are several parcels there that currently are zone general business. The issue with those parcels is that there is no paved street access to them. So in other words, the street that runs along the railroad tracks is considered a private drive by the railroad. There is a paved alley that runs from that private railroad drive north to Rome Street, but that's a paved alley. So there is no street access to this property. The issue is I spend the last 2 weeks I have been on the phone for literally hours talking to realtors and potential buyers and everything, because people would like to buy and develop this property. One wanted to build a house there. The latest one is they want to put storage units there. But the issue is because it does not sit on a paved street, there is not access. Now, I know this was prior to, I believe even prior to me, and I believe even to the mayor, that this property was discussed because this property is owned by the Mocks. I need to have some direction from council because I am continuously telling all of these realtors who aren't necessarily always nice at the end of the conversation that I can't tell them they can put anything there because there is no street address. There is no street access. So I am looking for council to give me some direction in this, because what we have currently is about 4 rather large lots that are zone general business, that there is no access streetwise.
And when Terry brought this to me, I said we needed to bring it here for some of your collective memory, because I remember sitting and talking about this before, and I might have been Dwayne. I know it was Mr. Hochrattle, and I can't remember if Tony was involved at the council discussion on that too, but I have a vivid memory of discussing these, and I'm pretty sure it was Dwayne in particular saying that you guys had discussed this previously when they wanted to maybe put the landfill there or part of that, and saying that in order to put anything back there, the parcel owner had to develop the road to get back there. But that was a discussion that occurred pre-me. It came up during a different discussion,
Right.
You know, as I was here. And so.
Are you sharing your screen, Brad? I can't see your screen.
Oh, I've got it up for them to see.
Okay,
Sorry.
as long as they can see it.
Paved.
The alley is paved, correct?
It's literally on par with the streets now.
It doesn't.
And you're talking
It's too narrow.
the alley that goes north and south?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's right at the end of an existing street.
Mhm.
And there are parts of Washington Street that are that narrow.
I agree with you, Mr. Furman, but the reason why I had to bring it here is because it does not fit our standard for a street.
Right.
So, I mean, we have another alley called Heterodox that's off of Washington that is about the same size. So I don't know if an option, and we have Jeff there, is to maybe name the alley like we did Heterodox, and then it does have an address. You can see that the Romulus Street, there is a right of way there off of Rome. There's a small portion that is the right of way that could be developed into a street. But I know the village, we don't have any, at this time, we don't have any plans to lengthen the street there. But I personally believe we need to do something to accommodate, something going up in this area. And I will tell you, again, the latest is storage units and even large ones to accommodate, or a large area to accommodate boats and trailers.
And well, I know you, Terry, you can't see this, but the road south of Rome, that's an alley. That's not named, is it?
No,
Rome is
it's not named. I said we have an alley that we name. Maybe we can name it, I don't know, to give it an address.
So this right here, guys, and ladies, is an alley as well. Because what I was thinking is, if this was a named road, and I couldn't remember the name of it, now I know why, because it's not named, we could maybe fudge it and make this.
Is up north here?
Yeah, up would be north, because here's the tracks.
Right.
Okay, so there's only one alley that runs north and south, and the street that runs alongside the railroad tracks that runs east to west is a private street owned by the railroad.
Right.
The east to west north of that is a street, right?
We're looking that it appears that there's a roadway 2 parcels to the north of the tracks. But that, as I'm pulling it up on Google Maps, looks like an alley. It's not named.
The screen darkened, but I don't know.
Oh, did it? Sorry.
Do you have up what I sent you, Brad?
Yeah, I have up the GIS.
Okay, I'm
not-
going there. So I can.
And it's not, I'm looking at it on Google Maps and it's not
Is it
named.
fair to the property owner on the alley to all of a sudden have all this traffic going past their house when Mott's actually owned where the oil can, because they started with a gravel and stone type of business there, and then it didn't go because they couldn't use that private drive along the side of it.
Well,
So then
it didn't pass muster because it wasn't zoned for the type of business.
Correct,
were
but
operating
they
in.
own that
So,
property.
correct. And they may still, I don't know.
Could
Do they? Okay.
could they not extend Romulus down?
That's what I was.
I mean, I guess that's always a possibility to get to their property to have a street right away.
Does Romulus, I mean, it seemed to me that you can drive straight down Romulus to that property. I don't see it on that map though.
Here, that map's mad, but here, let me.
It shows it as a right of way. You have to look at the property lines, and there's a right of way between the 6100 and then
Over their property.
Well,
That's a driveway.
it ends like right here. This is, I think, village right of way.
Yeah, right.
so if you would go straight south on Romulus, you would run into lot that ends in 900, which was one of Mr. Mock's lots.
Right. So they could extend Romulus
But
to be able to get there,
Romulus down to their lot.
I think that would be a better solution.
That would be a solution to it, yeah.
because Romulus and Rome Street are a little bit bigger than that
Yeah,
alleyway
because
right
that
here.
alley is really a walking path, and if you tried to widen it with the garage and those structures, there's just not enough space with that alley that runs north to south from off Rome Street.
And so this right here is a private road?
Yes, it
Yeah, the
is.
railroad owns that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was a street. It
No.
looks like a road.
Yeah.
It does, but it's owned by the railroad.
Everybody used it years ago.
The street's like a road, but it's
We
not.
went through
Oh,
that.
I know.
So they could extend,
Yeah.
they could extend Romulus. It looks like that's the best option.
Yeah.
But if they extend Romulus, are we going to require them to go to our street details that it's at that, so much depth and et cetera, and so much width to widen Romulus? That's the only solution?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Is the right of way even wide enough to meet our standard?
Yes, it's the same width as the Romulus, if you look at it.
I'm not sure Romulus meets our current standard.
Okay.
at which point they'd have to develop it, I would imagine, to the existing width of Romulus. They might have to meet the depth requirements, but the width requirements would have to be that of Romulus.
Yeah, see, I know when I extended the street, I had to make it wider than the previous street to meet our current standard.
Or they'll have
Quite
to
a bit
widen,
wider.
or they'll have to widen it to meet our current standards.
Yeah,
But-
it looks silly to be going down this narrow street and then you get to the new part and it's 50% wider for one building. But yeah, that's to meet our current standard. I'm sure it's wider than Romulus.
So they would have to
If
extend
it's a-
Romulus.
If
and-
it's the street, you might find out that once you find out them properties up there where their pegs at, you know what I'm saying? It might not be wide enough. that
Oh, I
you have-
believe it's wide enough for a street. I believe that there is enough right of way there that you can put a street in. If you're talking about the right of way and not the alley.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, we're
Right.
talking,
The alley is very thin, but that's not any smaller than heterodox. That's off of Washington.
but heterodox doesn't have commercial traffic going to a general business.
No, it does
park.
not. It has traffic, but not commercial, because all of the people that live on Basel Street use that road or use that alley. So there is traffic.
So yeah, I think extending Romulus and meeting our current standards. Especially, and I'm going back to meeting the current standards as opposed to the same size because it's general business. You don't know what type of traffic will go in and out of there. I mean, they have delivery trucks come in.
Who's gonna be developing that?
That would be on the person developing the parcel.
It's undetermined. I think he's trying to sell it. And he's got to prove he can build on it before he can sell it.
Right.
In order to build on it, you gotta have a plan of how to get access to it. So, yeah, I'd say this is gonna solve the problem.
And what is that, Mr. Foreman?
It's just that he's been unable to sell them because he can't present a plan that you would be able to build on it and get access to it from a street.
Correct,
So you,
It's
so
left it in limbo. They haven't been able to get an answer, basically.
correct. So then the answer we would give them was,
Extend
Yes.
Romulus to our
Okay.
current standard.
Would you, okay, now, where would you extend Romulus clear down to the tracks so they have enough road frontage to consider a lot buildable? Or do
Because
you,
where's the
on a
or
water?
do you
commercial
combine the
business
lots
frontage.
and just let the
Yeah.
driveway end up in Romulus?
well, because keep it, so when you're looking at this, the lot lines aren't on here, but
Right.
there's a lot line more or less right in here. And it's split this way, so the north half and south half are two parcels, and then when you get to this side over here, this and these trees are part of one parcel. So I would think if you're going to extend it down here to make sure you make the frontage, they either have to extend it to the tracks or combine these two lots and extend
could
it. only
combine
halfway
them.
down.
Yeah.
But you can't leave them two parcels and only move the road halfway down.
Or you could give them a variance and let them just use out of there for like a storage units. That's your entrance and exit.
Yes, they could get a variance,
That way
but
they wouldn't have to go clear.
But
down.
if we're doing a site plan, typically you wouldn't do variances on the site plan like that. You'd develop it this way and they would combine the lots, I think, if they
I
wanted
think
to
they
do
would
that.
probably combine the lots or reconfigure the lots. I don't know. that
'Cause that's-
really
I agree.
any ours, as long as they meet the requirements.
Yeah, but it's a good question because they'll probably ask Terry, do I have to take it all the way down? And
Right.
as configured currently, yes.
If reconfigured, no.
Right.
Okay.
All right. You good, Terry?
I'm good. Thank you very much, Council.
All right. Anybody have any other new business? Any visitors have anything? Oh, we had another visitor. They dropped off. Debbie's still on there.
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
All right. Our next meeting is September 27th at 7:30 PM. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Foreman motions to adjourn.
Second.
We'll give that second to Hamilton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Hearing none, unanimous voice vote, adjourn 8:47.
All righty. I will make the changes to the holiday schedule and drop it off.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Stop the recording.
Not too bad for the agenda we had.
Yeah.
No, you're right, Randy.